For those who are celebrating this year. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get right into it. All right, I'm gonna count it down, and yeah, we're gonna start from there. I'm gonna go
Sure.
three. Are you ready? All right, in three, two. Real life street stars, man. We are back once again. The woman with the plan, the Jaganator, the Jag Squad, Mrs. Jaguar Wright. Welcome back.
Hey,
Uh,
how y'all doing?
we're doing good, and Jag, I don't know if
How
this
are
is
the holidays going for you guys since you asked?
It's
a
good.
cold. Yeah, it's cold. We got
It's
to deal.
cold?
We got that Philly weather. We got that Philly weather down here, so I don't know what's going
Really?
on. Yeah, it feels like it. It feels like it.
That's insane. I remember when I first moved to Dallas, the first Christmas we had, it was like 68 degrees, 70 degrees. And I was like, see, this is awesome. A Christmas you can barbecue on. So, yeah.
We call that freezing down here.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll tell you, horrible. Jack, I don't know if it's a time to celebrate or a time to mourn because we have a documentary and that's trending number one on Netflix
Mm-hmm.
where we have a black man
Mm-hmm.
executive producing the downfall of another black man.
Is
Uh,
that what we're calling it?
I mean, that's how some people are looking at this thing. Or it might be looked at as a vindication, but that's why we're here. We're gonna have a conversation, man. This Sean Combs, The Reckoning, the 50 Cent Diddy doc. First and
Mm-hmm.
foremost, we've been talking about this thing, Jack, for going on 2 years now, and once again, thank you for even being, I guess you could say, a beacon during this whole conversation, as far as kind of spreading light on a lot of things that go down in the industry that the normal person may not even see or hear about that happens in the day to day. Did you really think 50 Cent, when he first mentioned it, that there was an actual documentary being worked on?
Well, see, this is the thing. I can believe that it was happening. At what purpose? See, and that's the thing. Like my opinion about all of this stuff is so much different than your average person's, and my outlook is so much different than your average person's. Did I believe that it was possible? Absolutely. Why wouldn't he be able to do a documentary? Why wouldn't he be able to bring in Alexandria to come and put this together? Like the woman who directed this, she doesn't even seem to have a background in hip hop at all.
That makes sense.
Um, so it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting. I mean, for crying out loud, Diddy sent him freak off videos.
True. Very true.
He did interviews
Very true.
about it.
Did you feel that just 50 Cent's name being attached to it again? These are two, as everyone knows, the three names in hip hop are Jay-Z, Diddy, 50 Cent, when it comes to the status of where you could get as a business or a brand.
I guess
Uh,
so. I
so
guess.
for the top three individuals, for one to go at the other and release this doc, um, I don't know. What does that say to again? I keep asking about the hip hop state of things. What does that say to hip hop? Like, are we our own downfall? I guess I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It all depends on what you consider hip hop. Like, I
Mm.
don't consider any of this debauchery, any of this animalistic crap. I don't consider any of this hip hop. I grew up in hip hop. I know what hip hop culture is, and it's none of this stuff that people are selling.
I mean, when did it stop being hip hop? We're gonna go through the documentary itself, but when did
It
it
stopped
stop?
being hip hop when it became corporatized. It stopped being hip hop when certain groups of people saw that they could use it to influence the mass public.
Mm.
When people saw how influential hip hop was, it became very clear. Once upon a time, not long ago, where people wore pajamas and lived life,
Hey,
you know, where laws were stern and justice stood and people were behaving like they ought to good. There lived a little boy and he was misled by another little boy. And this is what he said. Me and you, kid, we gonna make some cash, robbing old folks and making a dash.
Come on.
Like, they did the job and money came with ease, but one couldn't stop us like he had a disease. He robbed another and a sister and a brother. Tried to rob a man who was a detective undercover. Children's story.
Come on.
Slick Rick.
Yes.
We
What?
used to have real stories in hip hop, and now everything is what?
All right.
What are people talking about anymore? It's not. Hip hop used to be able to teach people. It used to be able to influence people to care about their communities or to pay attention to what was going on. And now it's used to encourage people into alcoholism, drug addiction, a life of promiscuity. Um, I mean, when you got rappers saying that, female rappers telling everyone that they need to be on prep, when you got that being sold, like when you have, is nobody not paying attention to how many people in the entertainment industry are now pushing and backing stuff from the pharmaceutical industry?
Mm.
You know, the influence. It's hip hop has been very influential, and now we got what we got. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would use the word hip hop when it comes to this conversation.
All right. Well, speaking of, before we
Mhm.
delve in deeper, right when this documentary kicked off,
Yeah.
and first and foremost, have you watched the documentary?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Actually, I've studied it.
Oh
I've been
wow.
studying it. I appreciate you guys giving me some time because I have a bunch of notes
Oh okay. Okay.
that I took because I wanted to see for myself what this is really all about.
The first thing we have to kind of delve into is the fact that when it comes on, we start off with Diddy basically recording him coming back to New York, recording himself, hiring a camera crew to technically turn himself in. 5 days before he turned in, he came back to New York. Based on
Six
his lawyer,
days.
6 days. Apologies. Based on his lawyer's recommendation, saying that of course, he's cooperating, but for him to be recording this, uh,
Yeah, Mark Agnew Fafo, I'm calling him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think his lawyers suggest? I mean, do you think that's just Diddy hubris, or like what was that as far as him just saying, "I'm going to record this whole process
I
of
don't. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, for because technical lawyer will tell you to probably go against that because this documentary to me doesn't exist if this it doesn't well it might still exist but this footage the way it starts off the fact that the executive producers 50 Cent the fact that that they have this footage and however they got it
Mhm.
the fact that it exists is like Diddy why would you even start recording this like why would you even give us this leverage to even put this thing out please give us some take
Leverage.
well yeah, I wouldn't call it leverage but go ahead.
Well, the whole point of him filming this whole thing was because I'm sure that he planned on doing his own documentary. This is an extreme narcissist you're talking about. Extreme. He's sitting there with feds an eye shot away from his hotel suite, filming his hotel room. And he's looking at them and he's filming them right back. He's literally saying in certain parts, yeah, 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 make sure you're filming all of this because we need to get some, some cutaway shots.
That's wild. That's wild.
No, he was literally, I mean, did nobody pay attention to that?
Oh, I saw it. I saw it.
Like he said, yeah, 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 make sure you're filming all of this. We need this for cutaways. Like you're sitting here collecting footage, like a director, like an AD.
It, what does that say to the cameraman that can anybody be bought or he said the cameraman said he recorded all this for Diddy, and then of course Diddy
Yeah,
got locked up. So
yeah. Diddy got locked up and he didn't get paid.
yeah,
That seem a lot of people seem to have that experience
I'm telling you.
dealing with Combs Enterprise. They come in and they work and they don't get paid.
Oh yeah. Oh, we gonna build up to it real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
so he was able to sell that footage to whomever he chose. The question is, how did anybody know about it? Like that's the thing. Like that's the part that it's so funny because people they get so excited. But when you've got a lawyer like Mark Agnafilo who is orchestrating your possible surrender, because as you heard him say in the beginning of the documentary, he was very clear. It's almost the middle of September and there's no indictment. As you heard Diddy say, I've been an exemplary client like you've asked. You said I've been an excellent client. I came here. I did everything you asked me to do.
mhm.
That's what they're literally having this conversation.
Yeah, in that conversation, Diddy was worried about the outlook of the public versus the
The
victims and things like.
outlook of the public. Oh, he was worried a lot more than that. You don't think? He
Oh yeah.
literally sat there and said, we need comms. He's sitting there talking like an evil dictator. We need comms. We need a way into this conversation. We're losing, he said. We're losing. Losing what?
Come on.
What are you losing? But the key words that he said that were so important were, we need to be able to be speaking to the potential jurors.
Mm.
He said, you might only be the guy that watches CNN, but there's 9 billion people in the world, and 7 billion of them are on Instagram or TikTok. We need to have control of that. He said, we need to know how these potential jurors are thinking.
Mhm.
That's what he said.
Facts.
So, what does that mean? He hadn't even been arrested yet. He hadn't even been taken into custody yet. Damian Williams hadn't come forward yet with a list of the charges that they were charging him with and what they were taking him to trial for. That didn't happen until December.
Mhm.
So, once again, they were losing. Losing what? Losing at what? We need we need to have control of comms. We need to make sure that we know how the potential jurors are thinking.
Uh, very true.
How does that not sound like anything other than what it is? They were looking to infect the jury pool as early as possible. They were hoping to infect the jury pool, to know, to see a lawyer sitting on the phone having a conversation with a man who was about to be charged with some of the most heinous acts known in recent history for a public figure.
Does that make him a megalomaniac? Just for him to think that he has that kind of control before even getting arrested, like I'm going to control
What,
this
what do you mean?
whole
What do you
narrative.
mean to think? To think? What do you mean to think that he has that kind of control? Look at what happened. Look at the outcome.
Hey,
What did I say to you guys? Who can these people run to? You can't go to the boss because the boss is screwing you. Look at Aubrey O'Day. The boss's boss don't care. You could go to the police, all bought and paid for, and even if you get a special prosecutor like Damian Williams, they can just be reassigned to another case. And then Maureen Comey comes in. We can't even begin to talk about that jury. We can't even begin. Not yet. We got so much more to discuss, don't
we
we?
got so much more to discuss. And as we delve deeper,
Look
first
at
and
what
foremost,
happened. I want you to think about that. Look at what happened from that. See, and this is why this documentary is I'm not calling it a documentary. I'm calling it a mockumentary. That's what I call it.
no, not Spinal Tap.
I call it a mockumentary. I feel like this whole thing is mocking me. That's how I feel about it. It's wild. But go ahead.
Yeah. Was there anything at all that you were watching this documentary that was new information to you?
New?
Yes.
No,
From the history of Puff, him coming up, anything new?
no. There was
Uh,
nothing new for me. There was nothing new for me. The only thing that was new was what was coming forward that had never come forward before. Burroughs finally admitting out loud that he had been essayed by Diddy.
mhm.
That's a first for most people to hear out loud. Do people know that it happened? Absolutely. See, and this is the biggest problem. Like I've been telling y'all, it's funny how people like to sit there and pretend like everybody ain't heard about all of these things in the backdrop. Like everybody ain't heard about all of these things throughout the years. That's the one thing that I love that Kirk Burrow was saying at the end of episode 4 when he first, dropped the bomb that he had been essayed by Diddy. It's Kirk Burrows, who had been
Yes.
here since the beginning.
Yeah, he's the founder.
And he
He
said,
helped.
he said, people keep pretending like all of the stuff that they hear about Diddy is something that's new. He's been doing these things. Ben, he's a witness to offenses that happened over 30 years ago.
Yeah, facts. Jag, you came in and you gave us a history about Uptown Records. Again, I know we have a lot of younger viewers, and some people start doing their research after you spoke on it, and for them to delve into the history of Uptown Records and Sean Combs' introduction to it, and going from there. He seemed like a kid, going to Saint, forget the name of the school, but going to like a private school
Yeah,
and jumping as an intern 19 into this, I'm gonna say back then this was hip hop with
yeah.
what Uptown Records represented at the time. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink, and then it seemed
Nope.
like after just a couple of years, there was one part he said
Well,
in
it's
the
kind of
document.
interesting. They said he didn't smoke and he didn't drink, but throughout all the Biggie's promo, every time you saw him, he had a bottle of champagne. They was drinking Moet all of the time. So I guess they don't consider cases of champagne and everybody having their own bottle and drinking out of their
Yeah,
own bottle like it was a 40 ounce. I guess they don't consider that drinking. But I mean, I
yeah.
digress.
There was a part where he was going back and forth with Andre Harrell, and he was saying, "I'm gonna be drunk and high by Wednesday." I don't know.
Exactly.
So I'm like, it seemed like the shift happened quickly when it comes to being introduced into this thing, into this industry. So he's technically he might be a victim as well. I don't know.
Um, I've already said that I believe that he was victimized, and I think it happened long before the industry. You know, people really don't want to look closer into his childhood and to what his mama had going on in that house.
Mm.
God knows what he saw and what happened to him in his own mama house. All of those strangers, them up involved, looking around, seeing what was going on. And let's just be clear, it sounds like her house was a house of, professional freak offs. So who knows what he saw or what could have happened to him while she was busy entertaining people and pouring and getting tips, as she would say, for her after hour life.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was. I'm gonna say he was
School
surprised to hear that.
school bus driver. No, was he surprised or was he like, zip it, you talking too much?
Mm.
Because that's what it looked like to me. It looked like you talking a little bit too much. They don't need to know about that.
Mm.
While she was sitting up there, oh, because I was a bus driver and I was this, and I worked at the after hours. And I would pour them drinks and they would give me big tips.
She did say it just like that. Big tips. You know, in
Big pimping, spending cheese.
damn. In Sean's own words, in Diddy's own words, he had said he had a sigh of relief learning that he was the son of a hustler or a gangster. Like
Mm-hmm.
he wanted that status. He wanted to say that he was a like a sigh of relief is a wild thing to say that your daddy was a gangster or a hustler. That's what you heard that he was.
Well, I mean, like Tim said, they had a bunch of black exploitation movies being played around the house all the time. They grew up with the Mac playing. They grew up with Superfly playing. Like, I mean, if that's what you got going on, you got two women in the house and there's no men around, and these are what the little boys are watching. You got basketball players coming over late at night. You got hustlers coming over, PIMPs coming over. Women who look like they were modeling for Jet magazine coming over. Like it sounds like the nature of the environment is what shaped their perception of what cool was. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure for him it was. Oh man, that's who my dad was. We glorified these characters. Like even if you look at Biggie Smalls' name, Biggie Smalls is a character from an old Portier Cosby film, Uptown Saturday Night, I believe. 40th Street Black and all of those characters that they had in the film. Biggie Smalls was played by Calvin Lockhart,
Mm.
big gangster from, I believe, St. Louis. Like all of these characters.
Yeah, without question, without question.
Yeah. So I'm sure for him, it made him feel good because all of that stuff that he was watching, he really came from that. But that was really his legacy. And yeah, I'm sure for him, it felt good to know that his dad was this big hustler who turned out to be a snitch, who got his brains removed from his head in a very, very, very unpleasant manner.
That's history
Jack,
tells.
Jack, there was a part in the documentary he kept saying, God he told me to do nothing. He's
Yeah.
telling y'all need to do something. God tells me to do nothing. What
Mhm.
are your thoughts on that?
This is what my thoughts on that. God said no. That's what God said. Like he was wilding with the whole God told me I can't do nothing, but he didn't say that you couldn't do something, and that you couldn't do something, and that you couldn't do something. God told you to do nothing. Why did you call Kalina 80 million times then? If God told you to do nothing, if God told you to be still. Speaking of God, did you see him with little Rod working out
Oh man, that was
while they were on the come down from all of the pharmaceuticals and all of the weirdo behavior and all of the alcohol, watching TD Jakes.
Yeah.
That didn't look weird.
It's very weird. The voice memos alone. Uh, I miss your legs.
Your
Uh,
limp leg. Your
yeah,
limp
your limp
leg.
leg. Damn.
Not legs. Your limp leg. LEG.
Yeah. Jeez.
What straight grown man says that to another grown man? Because it sounds like the leg that he was referring to was his pee-pee skirt.
God damn. And again, we're bouncing around, but for Lil Rod, that whole part right there where he stated, they would all just be drinking, and then all of a sudden, everyone's out of it, and he would wake up with women next to him. Sometimes he'll wake up with Diddy next to him, not
Yeah.
remembering what happened the night before.
Yeah.
That's as wild as it gets, man.
Yeah.
There's so
And
much left
not
unsaid.
just wake up with Diddy next to him, wake up sore.
Man.
But I'm tripping, all right? I'm tripping. I mean, that's what the whole world went around saying. I'm tripping. Okay. Yeah.
When you see the Eric Sermon uh, discussion about Misa,
Mm-hmm.
and it's again it seems like Diddy's just out there to take everyone's girl. It seems like if you got her, I want her. Uh, for the situation where they say he was trying to shape Misa into his mother, can you see that? Like,
Yeah, with the blonde hair and
mm,
yeah, and all of that. I mean,
it,
somebody
really?
asked a question, what kind of man puts his hands on his mother? The same kind of man that parties with his mom, the same kind of man who kisses his mom in the mouth, the same kind of man who seems to have accurate knowledge that his elderly mother can put both of her hands, her palms on the floor and while she's standing up, bent over.
Oh damn! I ain't seen that one. Oh,
You never seen the Instagram video when he was talking about how his mom is still young and spry and how she still liked the party and how they was getting a IV drip
oh, damn!
and she was kissing him in the mouth on the video when he was like, yeah, my mom can bend over and touch the floor with her palms.
No.
It's a
Yeah,
very, very, very weird relationship. It's weird.
it kind of goes into. I mean, he seems to be having, and again, I know the freak offs that his son is there. Like, it seems like he likes to get down with his kids.
Yeah. But that wasn't all. Just the to hear Little Rod say, like the boys were around. Roger Bonds talked about the children as well. What kind of what kind of parenting relationship is that? But then again, that goes back to the conversation of Harvey, Steve Harvey's daughter. It was all known that she was spotted in them streets with Justin, and then she was spotted in them streets with Diddy, and they all tried to sit there and pretend like that wasn't what it was. Like, I don't know if anybody has not noticed, but ever since Diddy got pinched, they've all been trying to pretend like all of the stuff that we seen that happened, that they was all involved in, didn't happen. If Lori Harvey was hanging out with, and it's kind of weird, like the whole relationship with Justin looks weird. He looks like Mini Me with Dr. Evil. It's weird.
They,
Like, why are there people? Why is there sexual behavior going on? And why are people naked in front of their kids, G? Doing all kinds of stuff. And meanwhile, Misa's running around making comments about how she don't like the way that Eric Sermon was depicting her in the documentary. You don't like the way you're being talked about in the documentary. You don't like the fact that, because see, it wasn't Gene Deal, because Gene Deal said he wasn't there, and thank God that he was able to admit that. Kirk Burrows did say that he was there and present when Diddy was beating the brakes off of Misa, and putting the feet to her up underneath the car well. That was Kirk Burrows that saw that. He talked about it in the documentary.
Yeah.
So that's what you're worried about, Lisa? You're worried about being depicted as what actually happened, as what you actually were, an abused and battered woman. You're more concerned about that than the fact that your child is sitting in that all through this with this guy that you made his father, with all of this pharmaceutical stuff going on, with all of this weirdo essay actual and essay stuff going on, with people being, you know, pharmaceutical out of their mind and waking up sore. You got a problem with the way you're being depicted. Little Ryder sitting there. He showed the video footage of all of the liquid DNA all over that bathroom where that guy G got popped in the studio with your son present, and that's what you worried about? How you look? That's what you worried about. Ain't that cute?
Right.
Why you coming to court with a walker?
Hey, hey.
Suing Mary
Yeah.
J. Blige over an artist everybody forgot existed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Kirk Burrows, he had said that, Diddy had, put his hands on his own mother, from what
Yeah.
it happened long before the fame, or long
Yeah,
before his notoriety.
during the first tragedy that made him famous, the City College celebrity basketball game that claimed 9 lives. Very similar to what happened with Travis Scott down in Houston for Astroworld. Isn't that funny? Isn't that such an odd coincidence? Diddy did that thing and 9 people ended up passing away at the end of it. Travis Scott did that thing and 9 people ended up passing away. Like it's the coincidences are so
I know
interesting.
he no one got in real trouble for that. No one uh had to, I guess you could say, pay the piper in creating Bad Boy.
Mm-hmm.
He knew to take the business and put it in his mother's name. So
Yeah.
therefore they can never seize those assets.
Yeah.
Technically everything is still in his mother's name.
Kind of like how what is it, D4VD, the David kid, did after that girl came up, hacked up into pieces in his car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came back home to Texas, right outside of Houston, and started turning over assets immediately while his PR team was lying, saying that he was cooperating with the police when the police have made it very clear as of late he has not cooperated at all, left the state almost immediately. So when he so-called moved out of the house um, on, what was it, Doheny, and now they've changed the name to Vireo. Isn't that funny? Girl gets found cut up in pieces right around the corner from a rental property, and they literally changed the name of the street within weeks. Isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah,
They
no,
said he, huh?
yeah, no, that was that's not a coincidence.
I know. Like I'm just. I guess the reason why I'm bringing up certain things is because a lot of people are trying to make this seem like it's just a Diddy issue rather than it's an industry issue.
So let me ask, because him
Yeah.
putting his business in his mother's name, and the U.S. attorneys trying to go after Rico that he used his business as an enterprise to do
Mm-hmm.
these sexual deviant things.
Yeah.
Technically, if he's just getting, let's say, small payments from his mom, he's not technically using the business. Do you think that they barked up the wrong tree to even lose this trial based on him saying that, hey, I'm not even the owner of Bad Boy. I'm just a, let's say, an employee who just gets payments to do little small things. Shouldn't they have like realized that, or like noticed like, all right, we can't trace the money back to the owner of Bad Boy?
Well, see, that's the thing. That was for Kurt Burrow's case. What about now? Because Combs Enterprise, all of it is not owned by Janice Combs.
Uh,
His name is on stuff, a lot of stuff. Like a lot of these things that happen, it's not like back then it was Bad Boy, Combs Enterprise. There's a bunch of different stuff that falls up underneath that umbrella. And it ain't all in Janice's, it's not all in Janice's name. It's not. Good portion of it is, but not all. Like they people have to be weary about anybody who goes through this much trouble to evade responsibility and financial liability. Because even if it's not all in his name, even if it isn't all him, even if it were all in his mother's name, then that would mean that his mother is the one that's running the criminal organization and she's been aiding and abetting his very sick behavior for decades.
hey,
It sounds like they should have made sure that she was added to everything.
hey,
That's the case. Because if he's just an employee and he's just being paid for his services, then that means that all of this stuff was going on up underneath her nose, and there's no way she didn't know about it. She was
hey,
involved and present for too much of it. Like there's a lot of games being played, a lot of games being played, and there's no way that the federal government is just so green that they missed all of this. I mean, this is the same federal government that went after Al Capone, and even when they couldn't go after him legitimately for all of the things that they knew that he did. By the way, let's talk about that little historical fact. Part of the reason why they couldn't go after Al Capone the way that they went after at him in the beginning was because of all of the corruption, was because of the ledger with all of the judges' names who had been being paid off to throw cases, to turn their heads, all of the police precincts that were working in tandem with Al Capone. They didn't want to tank the government's involvement in all of the corruption. So instead, they went after him for income tax. So this way, they could stack up the years and put him in jail forever without having to expose any of the government. Wasn't that cute?
hey. They run the system.
I'm just saying that's history. That's
That's
that's a
facts.
historical fact.
No, these are facts.
Yeah.
Jack, most people they don't know how a recording Diddy
I'm
not being able to,
I'm sorry, you
or
broke up a little
not
bit. I
saying not
couldn't
being
hear
able,
you.
but Diddy not paying Biggie correctly. Diddy not paying all of his artists on Bad Boy, as far as them saying that, hey, he was shining and all the all the artists were not winning. Craig Mack, his wife saying like, hey, we were broke technically, and he had a #1 record. How does the average recording contract work? Like an average recording contract where someone like a Diddy comes with, hey, we're signing you to Bad Boy. How does an advance work? How does the recoupment work? For those that don't know.
First things first, how it should work is you should have a lawyer that's working in your best interest. That's number one. I mean, my first attorney before I switched over to a Jewish attorney, Brad Rubin, I was using James Elam, who was African American, and James Elam and I fought for everything that we could get because they work very hard to keep it from you. They work very hard to keep everything from you, to keep every dollar from you, to get over on you as much as possible. That's why you need to have some kind of understanding of entertainment law, or make sure you have a lawyer that's proficient in it and that speaks it fluently. Everyone knew those bad boy contracts were terrible. Everyone knew they were getting screwed over. What they were hoping for was that they were going to be able to make it to the next phase of something where they would finally get something. Like it's all a carrot being dangled. Did you not hear what Bab said? That was probably the goofiest commentary that I heard in that entire, I took it to my lawyer and my lawyer went over and he said, well, they're offering you fame, but they're just not offering you fame and fortune. The lawyer literally sat there and said to her, if you sign this contract, the only thing you're going to be is famous. You're going to get robbed. And she said, I signed it anyway. It's bad boy.
Yeah, that was wild.
That's beyond wild.
She only had 24 hours to sign. Like
That's
him.
beyond wild. That's beyond wild. Like you literally were told you're going to get robbed if you sign this thing, and she signed it anyway for the fame. And now she just spends her time with YouTubers trolling. Kind of like Roxanne. Roxanne Mack Johnson, Craig Mack's widow, because she was still legally married to him when he passed away. Did you know she's a YouTuber as well?
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I thought it was so interesting that they had her in there. I mean, the reference in which they put her in there, I guess, it made sense for her to be talking about it because of what they were talking about. That I didn't have a problem with. The question is did anybody not bother? Because they could have went to a bunch of other people to got that same information. Like this is a woman. Did that woman? Ooh. She came after me, right?
I didn't know that this is Craig Mack's widow.
Yeah.
So
They
technically,
put ex-wife, but she's actually his widow. That's how she was able to get her hands on what royalties she could after he passed away, and she was finally able to get her children back because she had lost custody of her children to him. Yeah.
yeah, it was her, and then I believe Tisa Tells. I was interested that they put
Yeah,
them
that they
on the
were
doc.
included. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was kind of wild. That was kind of wild. It was just so funny because I'll never forget when Roxanne first was hunting me down on behalf of the troll farm. She couldn't get to me because I wasn't responding to any of her messages. She had been trying to get to me, trying to get to me. She kept trying to buy her way into my life, pay her way into my life, sending me money, trying to like sending $1,000 cash apps. Then she started going through Nosy Ho Live because she wanted me to come forward with a story. Guess what the story was?
shoot,
You
shoot,
want to know?
yeah, shoot.
Okay. So allegedly, according to Roxanne Mack Johnson, and by the way, the name Johnson, she married a cop in Chicago. It's funny, a police officer's wife, also a YouTuber, running around selling wild stories and selling wild tales. Um, Allegedly, back before she married Craig Mack, she was sleeping with Kid from Kid and Play. She was also sleeping with their DJ. Apparently, she slept with everybody in the group except for the brown skin, Chris. Um, And she was visiting with him while he was in town for a show in Chicago. Or she was supposed, they went to a meet and greet and they were supposed to meet up to hook up later that night at a hotel. And her and her friends went to the hotel. This is all Roxanne Mack Johnson's story. Um, they went to the hotel and kid never came. But Steve Stout, she alleged that Steve Stout and a few other people in the security guard, they all came to party with her and her friends, and they had a full tray of tequila shots, which allegedly she said had been pharmaceutical up. They've been dosed. And her and her friends were drinking, and they all passed out. And she believed that they had been raped. And she wanted me to run with her story online and advocate for her. But she didn't want to come forward. She wanted me to come forward with her story, but keep her as a Jane Doe. And the information that she was giving me was going to be enough to trigger Steve Stout to want to settle with her because she had a lawsuit that she was planning on putting on him for $2 million, and she was going to cut me in and make sure that I got paid. Me and Nosy whole life. And I told her I can't go forward with this. And if you really want justice for your story, if any of this is true, you need to come forward and you need to tell people your story. Because if what you're saying is that kid from Kid and Play sets you up with his manager at the time, Steve Stout, who's also mentioned in the documentary as a Diddy victim, how Diddy beat the crap out of him and how he begged for the authorities to drop all of the charges because he got paid 500,000. A grown man comes and beats the crap out of you, and that's all it took was 500,000 to get you to heal up. And as you know, him and Diddy, they've been cool ever since. Him, Diddy, the Jigga Man. That was another thing I thought that was interesting, that Jay-Z wasn't mentioned at all in any of this documentary. Yet
Not at
he was
all.
there for so much of it. Because right after the diddler beat the crap out of Steve Stout, the Jigga Man poked up on Rivera. Not long after that. All of this stuff happened around the same time.
Why do you think Jay Z wasn't involved in none of this?
Well, I mean, I mean, he was involved in a lot of it. You mean why wasn't he mentioned?
Yeah, mentioned in the documentary at all.
I mean, there was a lot of people that weren't mentioned. Matter of fact, not too many people in the industry were mentioned who were there and present. Isn't that cute?
Very
They,
true.
they found a way to tell that story while they kept everybody else clean.
Jag, how come you don't think?
Episode 2 focused heavily on Tupac Shakur and the
Yeah,
East Coast West Coast beef.
yeah.
They were saying that Diddy was technically jealous of Tupac and Biggie's friendship, of Tupac's success.
Technically,
Yeah,
technically,
technically.
I mean, they said it right. Diddy wanted to get down with Tupac. Tupac didn't want to have nothing to do with it. Nothing. He wanted nothing to do with Diddy. He was interested in helping Biggie. He was interested in promoting Biggie. He was interested in where that whole thing could go. He saw the promise. And I think he knew that Biggie was being taken advantage of. I think he knew that. But it was too late. He was already bought and paid for. It was good though for them to, highlight that one a little bit of history that, you know, Biggie was actually signed to Uptown. He was an Uptown artist first.
Yeah, coming after Heavy D.
and then how all they had was him to start Bad Boy, but they knew that it wasn't going to work. They were going to go out of business first. So they went and they got Craig Mack so that he could be the launch. And then, boom, you see what happened with that.
Exactly.
It was all a setup. It was all a setup. It was all a plan. It was all a ploy. Um, you know, I don't think Diddy ever thought that Andre was going to fire him. I think he thought that because of the closeness of their relationship and how much Andre relied on him for so many things when it came to pop culture and the youth and bringing in the young people. I think he thought that he was, you know, he was always going to stick around. So, like, when he had to move around the way he moved around, he went, he went helter skelter for real, for real. And the truth is he had had so much information. And when you look at the way he went to Clive, that was another thing that I thought was interesting. Clive was mentioned for all of 35 seconds.
Right.
Like they kept so much, like it was very sanitary, very sanitary.
What should they have said about how much more should Clive have been involved in that story, you feel?
What do you mean? He should have been involved in it a lot more. But then again, you start talking about Clive and you start talking about how Clive backed Diddy. Like people keep forgetting that Clive was 51% owner of Bad Boy.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a lot that's not being discussed or talked about when it comes to the financial breakdown on a lot of things. But you start having those conversations and then you kind of got to talk about the fact that Whitney Houston passed away at the Grammy party, and then all of the stuff with Ray J and Brandy, and Diddy being the one to give the speech for Whitney at the party. Like, why?
That's true.
Why? Why? It was a lot.
They mentioned where the East Coast West Coast beef started because there was a shooting where Puff Daddy was at a club with Suge Knight
In
and one
Atlanta. Yeah.
mentioned
That
that
was
on our
interesting as
platform as
well.
well. Yeah, they don't talk about that enough as far as that what kind of ignited a lot of the beef between the two companies.
Where that all started, yeah, like yeah, because what it really highlights is the fact that there was no East Coast, West Coast beef. There was just a beef between Diddy and Suge.
Right.
That's what there was. There also wasn't enough information speaking on the relationship with Zip and the ties to the Crips. There wasn't enough information on that either. But I thought it was very interesting how, for the first time, people were able to get their hands on the proffer conversation that Keefe D had with the feds regarding what happened to Tupac and Suge in Vegas on the night of the Tyson fight. That was interesting. You didn't think?
Without question. Without question.
Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, they said they had some footage that had never before been seen.
I mean, you
I-
could say that, but I saw a YouTuber that goes
yeah.
by the name of Miss Low Down who was using some of that footage like a month and a half ago, attacking Gene Deal and saying that Gene Deal was involved in the hit on Big, which was wild. Cause I'm like, wait a minute, this is here in the documentary. How did she get her hands on this?
Man, without question. Even them saying that for Big's funeral, for Puff to have used Big's uh his money to pay for his own funeral.
His
Um,
budget. Yeah,
his budget,
yeah.
yeah, his budget.
He ran up the bill on his funeral to put this big public show on, to put this big public show on, and then forced it onto his recording budget as a recoupable expense, which means who really paid for it were the fans, because all of that money came from everything that the record company recouped. Like that's, I mean, it's no different than the fact that Maxwell paid for Aaliyah's headstone, for her gravestone, because nobody did. Nobody bothered. Isn't that wild? A lot of
It,
people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that the tombstone that Aaliyah has was paid for by Maxwell, not even her own family.
yeah, it says a lot. Even after watching even the Eddie Murphy documentary, where these celebrities are passing away with close to nothing. It's interesting that they live such a lavish life and then pass with almost nothing to them.
I mean, they live a lavish life and they pass away with nothing. It sounds like it was all for show. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it was never theirs to begin with. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just so funny. Like, people keep talking about, oh, this person's a billionaire, that person's a billionaire, this person's a billionaire. Why? Because it was written down on a piece of paper that they're a billionaire? Are you absolutely certain that they are?
Come on.
Or are they just given access? Because, see, as long as they have access, as long as they look a certain way, it allows the public to believe that this is what it is. You want to know what's, speaking of sidebar, have you guys seen, did you see the new Running Man?
Yeah, yeah. It was better than expected.
What did you think?
About the which part? About the overall movie or the society or?
The overall movie and the way it translates to today.
Oh yeah, no. To me, it's a glimpse in our future. It's a glimpse of what's
Is it
coming.
a, is it a glimpse in our future, or is it what we're already living?
Hey, nah, right. Overly stylized life of what's going on right now. Hey, hey.
The network. Everything was being ran by the network. Everybody worked for the network. The network. Did you not see, like, you want to know what, for me, watching that movie was a total head trip. It was a total head trip, especially for me. I'm
What's up?
not gonna lie, I was triggered for like almost a week.
Go ahead, speak on it. Speak on it, because a lot of people haven't seen this movie yet.
Well, no, I mean, basically, just it's YouTube. It's YouTube. The way that they have the audience locked in, the way that they were editing and AIing his stuff, like he was sending in his confessional tapes. The way he had to disguise his background so nobody would know exactly where he was from, but they were tracking where the tapes were being mailed from, and that's how they were able to zero in on his location so that they could send the bounty hunters to come and get him.
Yeah.
The way they had the audience involved and spying and looking, the way when the two little boys took the life of the second contestant, that wild crazy lesbian girl
Yeah, yeah,
who
yeah.
got away, and meanwhile what ended up
Flamethrower.
taking her out. Yeah, the flamethrowers, two little kids. And I think, what was their prize? A lifetime supply of cereal.
Come on.
cereal is what they were paid.
Come on, come on.
It just kind of made me think about when Tasha K put together that whole Crime Stoppers thing for me and had people passing it all over Facebook and all over Instagram and all over TikTok. Y'all don't remember when they were accusing me of confiscated by the state of Louisiana and they tried to call it larceny? And that was Tasha K that put that whole thing together, right? You
News.
didn't know that?
Yeah, news. Oh,
Yeah. What was also really interesting is that I had a so-called accomplice, a man who I had never met, a man who I had never seen, who apparently helped me steal the truck that I rented.
yeah.
Isn't that weird? That was Tasha Cat right here on YouTube. It all was being passed around, just like
Yeah.
in The Running Man.
Come on.
Find and report.
Find and report.
Like it's really weird.
I can see it being triggering. I really, now that you say it like that, now that you laid it down, I can see that movie being triggering in the sense that
And the simple fact that he went and signed up for one thing, but then the Bobby T guy gets online and lies about his background, lies about his life, lied about his wife, lied about his kid, lied about his employment, lied about everything. Like they literally created him into a villain. They turned him into this terrible derelict individual who was too lazy to work, when the truth is the reason why he had got fired and he was losing his job was because he was speaking up against the injustices of what was happening to his coworkers, what was happening, kind of like me,
in the
getting
public,
online and speaking out about, you know, the tragedies and the atrocities that the industry has been committing time and time again, decade after decade. The people that I've seen that have been, the character in The Running Man is no different than me.
you are the running man.
No different than me. But yet, you go online, and when you put in my name, rather than finding my content, or rather than finding my commentary, you find channel after channel after channel of people that have sat there and turned me into some kind of supervillain, turned me into some kind of derelict individual, turned me into some kind of whatever the case may be. When I saw the way they took his he gave a whole and he gave it, I mean, literally he did his testimonial and he was like, and this is what's going on, and turn away from the industry, turn it off, don't watch this, don't watch that. And they literally took his video and edited to make him say he's gonna do all of this crazy stuff and he's gonna do this and he's gonna do that, like,
And the public ate it up.
and the public ate it up. How is that any different than me?
Hey, come on.
How is that any different than me sitting with Storm Monroe talking about the Cassie tape and talking about how I was triggered by what I saw from her because I had had similar things happen to me. And then they edited it to make it sound like that I was blaming Sean Carter for it. They took my image. I had to break down the whole AI video, from the shadows to the way things were moving to the fact that my earrings that I was wearing were getting stuck to the imaging in my glasses, the reflection being like the whole 9 yards. The way they were stopping it, the way they were speeding it up, the way they did, like Storm Monroe did all of that. And it was wild because we did that video in May, the week after the Cassie tape came out. It was wild because they took that video down and then they did a premiere and re-aired it with a whole nother audience after they had edited it. Then they let it sit there for 3 months. And then guess who was the person who came forward to discover what I said about Sean Carter? Tasha K. It was Tasha K who discovered me blaming Sean Carter for something that I had never done and that I had never said he had done. And they took me, they took my voice, they took my image, they took the words, and they edited this and they AI this and they did all of that.
Yeah, this AI has got out of hand.
And then they came after me, saying that I was backtracking, saying that I lied, saying that, oh, she said this about Jay-Z and now she's backtracking, now she's backpedaling for something that I never said. I was talking about something else, and I was talking about someone else. And the someone else that I actually came forward and gave his name. I had never spoken his name until last year, until they did that. The name is Trevor Green. You want to know what's funny? Trevor Green now has a channel here on YouTube. You can go and you can look it up yourself. The character Trevor Green on YouTube never existed until I mentioned his name in defense of what they were trying to pull on me. And now he's a character on YouTube. I actually had to block and ban him from my Instagram page. He was going through my content, looking for things to try to create, to switch up and to do all of this stuff because he's making videos of me here on YouTube now.
Yeah, you unlock them. You unlock them. Ain't gonna lie.
No, I'm just saying. I'm still not understanding because the person that they're glorifying and the person that they're propping up is someone who actually held me against my will at gunpoint. There's funny because somebody else did a whole nother video saying that I said that it was Jay-Z that did that to me. And then they said that I did something and they said that I said that Trevor Green had a knife to my neck. None of that ever happened. I never said any of that. What I actually said, you can see on my channel, but guess what? That's only if you can make it to my channel. Because guess what they've been doing now, ever since my channel crossed 100K? They're creating more fake channels, putting up a bunch of fake shorts.
Oh wow.
So I just thought that was very interesting because I'm like, if this ain't the fucking Running Man,
Yeah, without question. Yeah, y'all
this
go
is
see
the
that movie.
Running Man.
Y'all go see that movie and think think of Jaguar. As you watch it, you're
No,
gonna
no, don't think of me. Think of yourself.
hey, the society.
Because the second that you become a targeted individual, that's what happens to your life. This is what they do to you. That's why this whole documentary for me is so wild. Because pretty much everything, like I would have to say 80% of what's talked about in this documentary are things that I've been discussing and saying has been happening in the industry all along. Yes, would you agree or not?
Yeah, Jack. Let me ask you. In episode 3,
Yeah.
We get to the Kim Porter story, and of course introduce Cassie. What are your thoughts as far as them how they portray Kim Porter with this Reckoning documentary?
They didn't portray her at all.
They didn't.
That's the thing. They didn't portray her at all. She was spoken for by Kalima. That was interesting to watch. You don't think? Kalima's testimony? She was probably the most pitiful witness they brought up to speak about all of this in the entire thing. Kalima?
Wait, why you say that? She was emotional. She was.
Emotional? That's what you call it?
That's what I'm trying to call it.
Capricorn Clark was emotional. I'll give her emotional. I'm sitting there looking at someone, in my opinion, who appears to be struggling with a substance issue, trying not to fall apart on camera. Meanwhile, nobody paying attention to the fact that she's sitting there afraid to really say anything at all because she's in the middle of a custody battle and she's trying to get her kids back. And she's got to be careful of whatever she says because it could make it impossible for her to get her kids back. Did nobody pay attention to that?
Yeah, no, she said she wanted 5K from Diddy, and
And yeah, she wanted 5K from her former bandmate and a billionaire. And he wouldn't even give her 5K to help her get her kids back. Why not? But then again, nobody's talking about who her husband is and who her husband is to Diddy. He's one of Diddy's number one minions.
oh yeah, no, that's news.
He's a loyalist. He is a Diddy doo-wop bop. Kalina's also bisexual. So I'm finding it kind of interesting that she didn't see anything. She wasn't around anything. She didn't know about anything. And this is not me putting anything crazy on her. This is exactly what she said when she was on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta with Stevie J, who was also not mentioned at all during this documentary. Because Stevie J was living at the Star Island house. Tell me something. How do you have all of that stuff about Little Rod and there's no Stevie J? Now it was really interesting because there was some of the footage that Little Rod has shared with this documentary that he shared with nobody else that he did an interview with, and none of that made it into the trial. There's images of him with French Montana and the Diddler on the yacht,
Yeah,
but nothing of Stevie J. Surgically removed. Isn't
yeah,
that wild?
yeah, yeah. See, Stevie J not around.
Not at all. Not at all. One of Diddy's main producers throughout the years. And I'm not sure. I haven't bothered to check because I never really wanted to had any need or want to care to pay attention to the Love album. Stevie J don't have no credit on that project at all.
And while we're talking about the Love album, what are your thoughts when he promised Lil Rod 250K and they
And
offered
a
him
house
20?
on Star Island?
they, they they offered him 29K, and I think what they do is they look at like the fact that Diddy had brought him to Star Island, had took him across the world to create this album. They look at that like that enough should be payment for you to be in this element of putting that on your resume that you traveled the world with me. And they offered him 29K, and now of course his lawsuit is still open. Um, but
29K. 29K. So from 250,000 to 29,000. From 250,000 to 29,000, you got room and board, you got trips on private jets, you got all of that stuff going on. And even if housing him in all of that, like let's just say they spent $500,000. Let's just say they spent $1 million providing all of those things and all the baubles and the this, that, and so on and so forth. Let's just say they kicked out $1 million in expenses. That's absolutely nothing compared to how much money they were looking to make off of that project. That's nothing. Not only that, if one of those records had a hit that he was on, he would have probably been in the ballpark of collecting millions for the royalties, the publishing, all of that. If any of those songs ended up in a campaign, for a commercial, for a product, or for anything, talking about millions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see, you know what I mean? Like it's just once again, it's I mean, you can sit up there and you can say, "Oh well, you got this on your resume and you was with me." Like I've heard some of the girls that hooked up with Diddy throughout the years, and when they would come to his house and they would walk in the door and he would ask them, "So how do you feel? You made it." Like just being around him. But then again, when you listen to some of the way that he was referring to himself, like talking about he can only compare himself to the Son of God, and oh, it's been so long. So I forgot how to I forgot how to get to my tone, and I've been rapping so long and listening to myself that I forgot how to be myself. And it's like watching, I don't want y'all sitting here looking like watching Jesus walk on water, learning how
Yeah.
to walk on water. Like,
Yeah. No. No. Even the fact that he told everyone y'all are rock stars. Y'all are hot. I'm the level of hot. So he's saying don't ever think you're bigger than me when I'm in the room. I'm like just that thought process is
no, just not even that. He was like, y'all hot and I'm lukewarm. Y'all not gonna don't think I'm gonna sit here and let y'all be hot while I'm lukewarm. That's what he said. So basically what he was saying was is y'all not doing enough to turn me up. Don't think that I'm gonna let y'all look good and y'all don't work harder at making me look good. But he's referring to himself as God, as the Son of God. Like, I don't know what people want to believe. I don't know why people want to believe what they believe. It's wild to me. It's just kind of crazy to me. I mean, they did what they needed to do in this documentary. The whole objective of this documentary was to blame it all on Diddy. The devil made me do it. Blame it all on Diddy. And the rest of the industry is nothing like this. Like when Curtis Jackson sat there in his interview with Robin and sat there and said, I did this because I don't want people thinking that the hip hop community is okay with this kind of behavior. I don't want them thinking that, we're just going to be silent while all of this is going on. Like we're okay with this kind of behavior. And my thing is huh? So now you speaking for all of hip hop, and all of hip hop is uncomfortable with this. Meanwhile, you got people like Ja Rule who, on the low key, allegedly, Gene Deal has exposed for having his own nude tryst freak offs with Diddy. Like Gene Deal has sat on multiple interviews and on his own channel and sat there and talked about the time he was bodyguarding and he had to put somebody's cousin in a piano, and how the rapper came out bucking naked, talking about don't go in there. There's a bunch of freaky stuff going on in there, and he pretty much alluded to the fact that that was Ja Rule.
yeah. Yeah.
Like Gene Deal said that himself. So once again, for everyone who's sitting there trying to sell the idea that these freak offs just happened between Diddy and his girlfriends, how do you explain that story? How do you explain that? And then the documentary comes out, and Ja Rule is sitting there talking about you were snitch and you were this and you were that and whoop de woo. Well, clearly hip hop is okay with this behavior. You got the game on the night that the documentary is coming out talking about free Diddy and free R. Kelly, and talking about how baby oil is cool and so is urinating on people.
That's wild.
You want to know the one thing that I'm finding also very interesting that nobody's paying attention to? The presence of that pyramid, that The same thing that the Rock Nation likes to put up, the same hand symbol that the sororities and the fraternities like to use. I'm not going to emulate it because you know exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
The pyramid sign that Diddy was wearing that around his neck. You want to know what I found funny? That there were a bunch of YouTubers that were at that courthouse that were wearing that same, it was a much smaller version, but that same symbol.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, um, and that's the part of this story that makes it possible for people, I think, to graze over the reality of all that's going on. If you just look at it from the salacious celebrity stuff, from pop culture media, so-called this new media, and I'm really not liking that term, this new media, because what it really sounds like is the name of a gang. Like the media is media. Because I'm looking at the people that are falling under it, and they're all the same people that are involved with, creating these propaganda campaigns. But that's exactly what Diddy was saying at the beginning of the documentary. We need somebody that is proficient, or fluent in being able to spin propaganda and narratives. We need social media. I guess that new media, is that what that is? Like if you only look at it from the face value aspect of it, that's one thing. But if you look to the spiritual side of it, it's completely different. It unveils a much deeper agenda, because for those who, it's funny, people like to talk about God and they like to throw God's name around and they like to talk about their religious and they like to talk about this and they like to talk about that, but then they don't want to acknowledge the spiritual warfare aspect of all of this that's involved. Because if you're only looking at this as freaky behavior and this, that, and the other, then that's perfectly fine. But if you take it and you flip it on the other side and you look at it as spiritual warfare, it casts a much bigger net and a much bigger light on everything. You can't just put it all on Diddy. You can't.
So let me ask you, Aubrey O'Day, she reads the transcript and the testimony in which someone seen her,
An affidavit,
the
yeah,
affidavit. I'm sorry,
yeah.
someone seen her and Diddy with another, bodyguard or whoever, getting essayed in a room. And at the end of at the end of the affidavit that she reads, she looks at it like she doesn't want to know if that was true or not. And if she goes after the person and say it was lies, that means it discredits everyone else who has filed lawsuits. But if she does go after the person and find out it was true, then that's just a memory she doesn't want because she doesn't remember none of it. Um, how many stories do you feel like that are happening in the industry? And what are your thoughts on her saying that, as far as saying, I'd rather just sweep that part of my life under the rug?
That was hard to watch. That was hard to listen to. And I'm going to do my best to try to be as respectful to her as I possibly can. But that's the exact attitude, the attitude that she's expressing regarding now. That's the same attitude that made it possible for that to allegedly happen to her. See, that's the thing. The very thing that she don't want to deal with, that she don't want to acknowledge, that she don't want to remember, the people that came before her that didn't say anything, that's what made it possible for that to happen to her.
Yeah.
So for her to say that and know that all of this is going on, really what you're saying is you don't give a damn who else it happened to. You don't give a damn about who else it could happen to. What you care about is that you're not looked at as this broken thing that got ran through by this animal. That's really what it's saying. And The thing is, and that was the part, her testimony was the worst of all because the affidavit wasn't something that when she was looking to file a suit, because don't forget, she has legal representation because at one point in time, she was considering filing a suit, and now all of a sudden, it's looking like her legal representation is to protect her from having to say certain things or having to be involved in certain things. It's looking like her legal representation is there merely more for damage control than anything else. And considering that her and Dawn Rashard were both in Danity Kane, and Dawn came forward with a lawsuit, and then she has this affidavit that was sent to her where this person said, first things first, it seems to me like you would want to have this investigated. Like she was like, well, I didn't want to go into, because if I found out that this person was lying, then I would be forced to expose them, and then it would compromise all of the other lawsuits. That part makes totally perfect sense. I can agree with that because for myself, the Ashley Parham case. Do you guys remember that case? Hmm? I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said slightly.
What did you
Bring
say?
us up to speed on that.
Okay, so the Ashley Parham case was filed about 3 weeks or so to a month after Diddy was arrested back, was that September 16th, 2024. The Ashley Parham lawsuit was filed October, I think 14th, 2024. It stated that Ashley Parham was brought from one location to another location in the more northern part of California, like not far outside of the Bay Area. She was brought to Diddy. Apparently, she had mentioned or said something about she believed or she knew that he was responsible for the unalivement of Tupac Shakur. She was brought to him, and when she was brought there, she was violently essayed. She was, they put pharmaceuticals in her, knocked her out. She came to, tried to get away, ran out of the house. The neighbors saw her, whoopty whoopty woo, yada yada yada. And then they went speeding off before the cops got there. She went to the hospital. There's still really no evidence of a grape kit. There was a bunch of stuff that was really wild about her case, but that was the case where they were saying that she had been essayed with a remote control, a television remote control. This lawsuit was filed by Ariel Mitchell when she was still going by Ariel Mitchell Kidd, and another lawyer named Sean R. Perez. Um, and then that case was there. And then the case was amended late February of 2025 of this year. And they added Big Homie CC to the lawsuit, which I always thought was kind of weird because that I believe they put Big Homie CC in and they didn't even put his real name in there. They added Odell Beckham Jr., they added Drew Ski, and they added me. Said that I had trafficked, moved around, transported a Jane Doe and a John Doe who no one has ever asked to come forward, no identity, no nothing. Um, that me and some woman who sued Michael Jackson's estate after he had passed away had taken them by force across state lines to witness this terrible event, and that I was the one who suggested using the remote control. Like, I get it because I said it the second that I heard that crap. Number one, this is a crap lawsuit. Number two, none of it's true because when this incident happened, it was March 23rd. 2018, there was no way I could have been present for it or could have done anything for it because I was in jail in Chicago fighting a child abduction case because of my child custody, where I was fighting to prove that I had legal custody of my son in Dallas, which I did. And I ended up beating the case, and the case was dismissed, nulle prosecute, in May of 2018. So to even have me in that lawsuit invalidated the lawsuit and the legitimacy of it. And the simple fact that it was Ariel Mitchell Kidd and this other attorney, Sean R. Perez, who's involved in other legal action against me. Like after it became clear and it was busted out that there was no way I could have done what they said they tried to invent that I did in that lawsuit, which had been filed October, mid-October of 2024. They just started trying to put me in other lawsuits. The Sean R. Perez. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, that's the way things went with that.
And guess what? I asked to be taken out of the lawsuit. My name is still in it. Drewski asked to be taken out of the lawsuit. His name is still in it. And Ariel Mitchell and Sean R. Perez have been asked to be removed from responsibility as the lawyers in this action. Meanwhile, Diddy is trying to sue her and Courtney Burgess and News Nation for $100 million. Can nobody find Courtney Burgess? It's funny because there's been a lot of people saying that I'm running from this and I'm running from that, but I'm here on. I've sat with y'all. I don't know how many times this year. I got my own channel. I got my own stuff. It was really weird. There's somebody came to me and said that there was a YouTube channel that was talking about they were trying to have me served at your studio.
Goddamn.
And that they got process servers sitting outside of real life studios looking for me.
So they'll be sitting there for a while. What the hell?
I'm just trying to figure it out because the information that I got, it's a complete and utter lie because they said that they come to your studio and they came to the door looking for me. That would be impossible.
Facts.
That would
That's
be impossible unless they were going to a prior location. And
uh,
even still, they wouldn't have let nobody up there. Like these people are very, very, very invested for whatever reason in finding out exactly where I am and
running.
using all kind of weirdo legal like legal maneuverings. Like there is someone who has filed the exact same lawsuit in 4 different states. That's not even legal. That's not even legal. And the one thing that all of this stuff has in common is one lawyer in particular, Sean R. Perez. Funny. So, like I was saying, I understand where Aubrey O'Day is coming from because when I first heard about it, I said, this Ashley Parham case, putting me in it totally invalidates it. But maybe that was the point. Say, maybe that Ashley Parham case was bullshit all along. And maybe it was part of the multi-layered plan to create reasonable doubt for the jury pool from very, very, very early on.
Yeah,
It's a
and
very clever plan.
And Jack, I have to ask, because as we close out the documentary, they were, of course, speaking on the case itself, and there was one juror that he said something very interesting as far as the
You
way
talking
it's
about
looked
that
at.
Indian man?
The Indian man, yes, because he said he never heard of Diddy. He didn't know Diddy. He didn't know no music. So I said, okay, this is a person who doesn't know nothing about nothing compared to like the black girl who said, "Oh, I grew up, watching Diddy and stuff." He
Yeah,
said he looked at like the situation with Cassie and Diddy was like two hands clapping.
yeah,
If they don't come together, there's no noise. So they have to
yeah.
they have to connect.
Yeah, he also said that if you don't like what's happening to you, you just leave and you don't keep going back. Like you can't complain about being, essayed and hurt and harmed, but you keep going back to live the life of luxury. When he said that, see, that was the stupidest shit that Dot Indian could have ever said. And it's very funny that you want to bring up the jurors because my notes that I took, like I'm not understanding how they're not being investigated and how people aren't looking at their financials all the way around. I was able to spot so many different tells between the both of them, especially that goofy black bitch. Juror 106, she's a fucking idiot. Now, I thought that was kind of brilliant though, that they put them in there because if you're really paying attention and listening to what they're saying, they're sitting there telling themselves, they telling on themselves like crazy about how compromised they are and how biased they were towards Diddy. Like very biased. Number one, who selected that jury? Like I'm still trying to figure out how the federal prosecution failed selecting that jury because everything that was on that jury was anti prosecution and pro defense. No disrespect, but I've known a lot of Indian men throughout my life. I've done business with a couple throughout my life. And I'm not trying to be biased, but there are just certain things that are just real, like very, very, very real, very misogynistic. They are very misogynistic. They don't really treat women fairly. Uh, they do dowries for their daughters. Like it's part of the culture. When I think back to that movie that Denzel Washington did many, many, many years ago called Mississippi Masala, and the way they depicted his relationship with a Dot Indian girl who he fell in love with named Mina, and they had a very interesting, it was so interesting the way the men in her family looked down upon him, looked down upon her for dealing with him. um they were very dismissive of the women involved. It was just a very misogynistic culture that was being displayed in that movie. And I'm sitting there listening to this guy, and I'm like, there's no way with his views and just the typical background of these kinds of men, he should have ever been on that jury. Because in order for him to have the attitude that he had, he would have to completely discredit the fact that Cassie did try to get away from Diddy on multiple occasions, and she was hunted down, she was followed. Like when she dropped her lawsuit, one of the incidents that she recounted was that after she left the final time before she got married and she was, starting her motherhood journey, the Diddy came to her, forced his way into her residence, and SK'd her in her home. Do you guys remember that? That was all
Exactly.
details that were added in the case that he settled. The case was filed and he settled it and paid in 24 hours. Like you would have to totally discredit that or discredit the fact that, Capricorn Clark, the whole Kid Cudi situation. when she said that Diddy brought Cassie to her to stay with her while he was out of town. She was a young adult, but she was an adult. Why does she need to be babysat by anyone? Why would she need someone around watching everything that she did? Why? And then just the like the whole nature of it all. It's almost as if he completely discredited everything that was said about this man, which means that he couldn't have given an unbiased opinion if his actual opinion is to discredit victim statements and outcry. Am I wrong? Or am I true?
No, no, speak about it.
But when he sat
No,
there
you're not
though
wrong.
and said, when they asked about him and the juror 106, that goofy black bitch, they sitting there and when they asked about him making eye contact or about him looking at the jury, they both lied. In my opinion, they both lied. The way when it asked, well, did he ever make eye contact? No, 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 no. Well, see, they gave instructions and said you can't look at him. But the girl sat there and was talking about how he would look over at the jury because he forgot where he was and how sometimes he would nod and do this, but you said that he never looked over at the jury. You said that you never made eye contact with him. And then she starts talking about, yeah, because I just think that he nods back and forth because he always used to do that. If you were never a fan of him, if you were only a fan of the artist and you were never a fan of him and you were never paying, like, and then the way they were able to edit in him nodding back and forth during making the band and all of that, like, it's just kind of wild to me that nobody is seeing exactly how compromised these jurors are. And then the way she was dancing around the whole avoiding social media during the trial. But meanwhile, I don't believe any of their phones were confiscated and they hadn't been secured. They weren't sequestered. They were able to just come freely back and forth to court, which means anybody could have walked up to them, anybody could have spoken to them, anybody could have showed up, followed them home. Like I said, there was a bunch of YouTubers hanging around that courthouse. They were there looking at the jurors. They were there. I I I put it past none of them to have been able to follow any of these people home, get their address, and then come back because they were all speaking to the legal team. Like that was the one thing that Tisa Tells was talking about how she was watching the propaganda machine working and how they were sitting there talking to the bloggers, talking his legal team. And one of the main ones was that woman that I saw outside the courthouse that I spoke to, the one that had hugged me. And I let her know that I was praying for everybody the day that I was there in court. She's a damage control specialist. That's what she does. She was a PR person there to handle, like, all of this was a setup. And to sit there and go to the beginning of this documentary and hear him literally saying, we need to put a plan together. We're losing, we're losing. And then when you look at everything that happened after. So, yeah, that brings us all back to what Aubrey O'Day had to say. I get it. You don't want to expose someone as a liar because you don't want it to ruin any of the other valid cases, but they were already doing that. Because in my opinion, right now, at this point in time, I think that whole Ashley Parham case was just a red herring to get it out there, to make it look crazy, throw a bunch of stuff to it, just to get it dismissed so people can say, oh, see, all of these cases are fake. All of these cases are fake. Look, Jaguar Wright, they put her in there, and there's no way that happened because she was in jail. Look, all of the cases are fake. which means that these lawyers like Ariel Mitchell and Sean R. Perez, were hired to stage all of these fake lawsuits, to go in there with the real ones, to create doubt. Like, this is a very, very, very elegant plan. And it was executed very well from all of that. And just so, like, I get where Aubrey's coming from. Like, I get what she's saying. But at the same time, who doesn't want to know? Like, if that happened to me, I don't want to know. Well, sweetie, if you didn't want anyone to know, what the fuck did you read us the affidavit for? Like, she had done an interview saying that she wasn't sure whether or not, like last year, saying whether or not she wasn't going to come forward, and there was some information and it was being investigated and whoopty whoopty woo and yada yada yada. And that was pretty much the end of that. But if you didn't want anybody to know about this, then why the fuck did you sit in a goddamn documentary and read us some shit that nobody had ever heard before? Like, that just does that make any sense to y'all?
Nah.
That affidavit had never been shared with the public before. The only way that it could be shared is if she had turned it over. Her and her legal people had turned it over to this documentarian, to this Alexandria woman. If you didn't want nobody to know about it, and you don't want nobody, you don't want to see yourself as this, and you don't want it, what the fuck did you share it for? Am I wrong? Or am I tripping?
Right. Yeah, what do you? Yeah. Put it like that.
Y'all there?
Yeah. You can't hear me?
Did I
Can you hear
lose
me?
everybody?
No, no. Can you hear me?
I don't know. But that's my answer to that, to the Aubrey O'Day thing. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's crazy, and I also think it's gaslit. I think it's gaslit. If you don't want nobody knowing that you're a victim, then why would you show evidence that you were potentially a victim? Why wouldn't you want to go and look further into that, especially after everything that happened, the way she was fired? You read us these emails about him, carrying on this grooming behavior, all of this wild stuff, and him talking about what he's going to do to you, and then you're denying it, and then someone's coming forward saying that, they saw you passed out, totally messed off. We keep hearing evidence after evidence of this is how he operates when he's trying to get what he wants without consent. And then you want to share that and then say, I don't want anything to do with it. And if it's not true, I'm going to be forced to come after you. And like, it was all very interesting. It just felt like it was very gaslighting to me. So that's about how I feel about that. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's how I feel about that.
Jack, can you hear me?
And it's a shame because after
Okay.
all of these years, he's still running the show. He's still running the show in her life.
Oh, Jack, can you hear me? We're gonna close. We're gonna close it. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Yeah, let me just call. Now you can stop it, Jalen, and recording.